Hello, this is Andrew from Flanders, and today I wanted to show you a product that we have called the SAP BPC Locking Tool. I think that you'll find this interesting if your company or client uses SAP BPC. This is going to be quite an interesting tool for you. Why is it good? Well, because it allows you to lock your numbers or unlock your numbers directly from an EVDRE, whereas the functionality that you get with SAP BPC at the front end, it actually is through an Internet Explorer web-based browser, whereas this thing allows you to lock things straight from Excel. The other thing is that you can do this for up to 5 applications in one go. So that means instead of having to log out, log off, and log on to each different cube, you can actually modify the work status for 5 cubes all together in one shot. And that means that there can't be any differences between cubes if you've got groups of users submitting data to one cube and let's say you're locking one cube and then you've got one other cube that could potentially be unlocked and users accidentally submitting data to it, you could end up having misbalanced cubes, and you want to try and avoid that. So therefore, the good way to do that is to lock all your cubes up at the same time in the same instance, and this program allows you to do that. Another advantage is it can work for 3 to 4 secure dimensions, which is kind of what you get with BPC itself anyway. However, these can all be different for the 5 different applications. So it doesn't matter if you're going to lock 5 cubes at the same time. Even though you've got 3 or 4 different secure dimensions across those cubes, this system can still work around that without a problem. And finally, it also checks for your validation errors, which is what BPC itself does anyway, but you'll find that it'll actually have some more funky stuff for that as well. And finally, it expands down by entity and across by time or by any other secure dimension. And again, this is actually quite a good advantage, and you'll see why in a minute. If I go into in SAP BPC itself, what I'll do is I'll open up the actual locking tool itself, and what you're presented with is it's actually a Excel, it's an Excel template, just like what you would normally get with SAP BPC, so it's quite a familiar approach for your users. And what we have here is I've done this so that you've got your entities going down the left hand side, and we've got our data sources going across the top. And in this particular system here, we have 4 secure dimensions. So we actually have category, entity, time, as well as data source. So this is an example to show you that this works on 4 secure dimensions. So we actually have those going across. I've opened up this file that's called BPC Locking Tool User, and the reason why is because this file is actually intended for your non-group finance users. These people would have a few more controls applied to them than what your group finance guys would have. Because, for example, you might want a one-way locking approach that your users who are out in the different divisions can only lock their numbers. They cannot unlock them. So therefore, they can only modify the work status upwards and not downwards, unless they actually have somebody in group finance unlock the numbers for them. Again, this is an advantage that SAP BPC doesn't offer, but is fully available in this system. So let me click. What I'll do is, you can see here we've got, for this particular example, we've got 3 different applications of finance, intercompany matching, and management cubes, which will correspond here. So on the drop down here, I've got finance, intercompany management, and management. And if you have a look here, you've got your management cube here. If I untick it on this box, your management cube disappears. Likewise, intercompany matching cube disappears down there. And so what this does is it gives you the flexibility to select whichever cubes you want to lock and unlock. Okay, so if I just click on refresh here, I'll show you what's going to do here. So this is just to allow me to refresh the lock settings. Now, I am an accountant working, and I'm working on Netherlands Company 1, 2, and 3, and I'd like to just modify the submission status on those. So I'm going to click on this drop down here. I've got two different work states that I can use. Obviously, open is no use to me because I've already done the work. Now I'm going to tell group that I've locked these ready for them to review. So I'm going to click locked by user. I'm going to copy and paste that across. Okay, and I'm going to do that for just those data sources there. So for Netherlands 1, 2, and 3, for these three companies, I've done that now. Okay, now let's say I've done the work also for Netherlands Company 11. However, I've only done it for that data source. And I've also only done my local inputs for Netherlands Company 13. I've still got to do some more work on IFRS and IFRS Con. Okay. And let's say for my manual inputs, I've finished companies 14, 15, and 16. Okay, that's done. Now, this is for the finance cube. Now, what happens if I've done that work for the intercompany cube as well as the management cube? Okay. And now, what happens also if the intercompany cube has got slightly different dimensions? Okay. So, like the intercompany management cube, or sorry, the intercompany matching cube has got the same entity type dimension, but it's got a different data source type dimension going across, which is what we have here, as well as an added complication is our management cube has got actually a completely different looking entity type dimension. As you can see, they don't correspond. They correspond a little bit, but not completely. But they've also got the same data source type dimension. So, how am I going to get those things across? Well, I could either copy and paste them manually, in which case it's going to take me a while, okay? Or I could click on this button here, which is linked copy. If I click on this, I get a little message to say that it's copied everything from the finance cube to the other cubes across. Now, if I go to the management cube over here, can you see it's copied all the equivalent settings through? You see, so for Netherlands Company 11, which is actually made up of two different entities, Netherlands Company 11 here on the finance cube has got one entity. However, that's cascaded through to the management cube, which actually has two equivalent entities for the IFRS Con data source. Also for the management cube, or should I say, sorry, the intercompany matching cube, Netherlands Company 11 actually doesn't have an IFRS Con data source here, you see, so it doesn't need to be ticked because there's no work required there. So I've managed to now copy my lock settings through to three different cubes, the three different cubes which I had set over here. So that's given me that flexibility. So that saves us a lot of work, I'd say. Now, what we also have is if I can expand across ways by time, okay? And let's say I want to select multiple time periods. Let's say I don't want to select 3 different months or 3 contiguous months. We actually want to select every second month, so let's do that. And I click on refresh here. What you'll see is instead of data sources going across ways now, you're going to see the 3 different months that I selected. There we go. And the data sources it's going to use are these ones, which is actuals, IFRS Con. Now IFRS Con actually has, this is the data source dimension that I've got here at the moment, which IFRS Con includes all of these data sources underneath. So therefore it's going to modify the work status on all those data sources down there. Okay, so you can see that it gives you the ability now to again do your lock status settings here. So if I want to do Netherlands Company 1, let's say I'll just do that. Just make a little pretty little pattern here. Click on link copy. You'll see that for the different cubes, it actually cascades right through. Okay. Now, so let's say I want to actually change this back to data source. Just going to quickly do that, and I'm going to do it just for 2011 June. Okay, so okay, let me just check. Have I got 2011 June selected? Oops, no I don't. There we go. It's over there. Right, so click on that. Now, so it's just for the 1 month. Okay, and I'm going to send my lock settings through now. Okay, so what did we do? We did company 1. Okay, send them through for those 4 different data sources, and I'll just show you. So we got company 10 there, done some work here. This is just for example purposes, obviously, and there we go. So I'll just say, right, linked copy, bump. It's gone through to the other cubes, and now I'm going to send the updates. But we've got a problem because we've got validation differences, which has been brought up by this sheet here. So this sheet actually prevents us from locking our numbers. So unless I clear those validations out, I can't modify my work status. But if I actually want to have a look at these, well, this can be used as a report as well. If I double click on this, this will bring up another validations report, which will then give me more detail. So if I've got a difference here of 3045, now I want to make sure, I just want to get a bit more detail on that. I double click on that. Right, our 3045 is made up of following intercompany matching problems here. 3045 is our difference. So therefore you can actually see that we can actually get our reports. We can actually build this to include our validations reports so that a user can immediately see why they can't modify their work status. Now I'm just going to jump around this one. I don't actually have the time to clear those validation differences right now, especially if I'm showing you a little tutorial. So I'm just going to clear those out, and now I'm just going to say send the updates through, and you'll see this little bar here on the right hand side, the little progress bar, and it will show you that it's sending those updates through to the database right now. Okay, so now our updates are through. Now, I am a group finance member. Well, actually, let me show you. As a user, I now want to try and modify my work status downwards. Oh, there we go. You can see here that this prevents you from unlocking your numbers now. So if you try to unlock your numbers in any way, the ones that you've already locked, you'll be prevented from this. So this is an optional setting, and it's per cube, where you can actually say which cubes you would like to prevent users from unlocking the numbers. So it's a one-way approach where they can't unlock the numbers, they can only lock them. Okay, now if I'm group finance, I can actually always open my group finance file, okay, and this would normally have a password on it to prevent non-group finance users from accessing it. I'm going to click refresh just to make sure I've got my latest lock settings. Okay, it'll refresh in a minute. There we go. Now this is what I can now see. So I'm in a different file here, and I can see that those lock states have been modified. Okay. Now I can always take this further. I can always put this up to work status number 3, so I can say this has all been locked by group now. I've signed off those numbers, and I'm happy that group finance are happy with those numbers. Now let's say I find out that there are some, for example, these ones here that are open have also been done, so I can also mark them as locked by group, and I can send these through to the database just like your normal user. But let's say I get a phone call from a user to say that they need everything unlocking because they need to make changes across everything. I can just use this setting here, which is copy down, and this copies the work state, which is on the top left corner here, and it'll copy it to all cubes. So if I click copy down there, it'll actually then apply the same setting in the top left corner for all the different cubes. Okay. Likewise, I can actually lock everything by group. There you go. So group finance can do the same thing, and therefore we can actually lock everything for Netherlands, for example. Another advantage of using this BPC locking tool is that if you had, for example, an entire country being locked and all entities underneath that country being locked, and you then became aware of, as a group finance member, you became aware of an issue with one of the entities further down the tree that needed a change made into it, well, you don't need to unlock the entire parent structure. In other words, you wouldn't need to unlock Netherlands. You could just unlock a company underneath it. So let's say company 12 here, you could actually just unlock that by itself for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 data sources there if you liked. So you don't actually have to unlock the whole structure. So therefore, what that would mean is that only Netherlands company 12 for these three data sources would be unlocked, and everything else would still be locked up. So no users can inadvertently make changes to that. So now as group finance, I've now got all of the companies locked, okay, for Netherlands, okay. So, and I've sent those lock settings through. Now, if I go back into my user file here, click on refresh, you'll see that now it'll say the same thing. There we go, it says lock by group. The reason why it's white is because your user wouldn't be able to access the lock by group setting. They can only access open and lock by user, you see. Now, if as a user they try to unlock the numbers, they click on open, they get the message to say that they're not allowed to mark their work status downwards. Finally, what I wanted to show you was the administrator settings sheet, which drives the file itself, the actual program. And what it gives is it gives you all your different locking states that you can have, your different work states here. So there we have, this is set to have 3 work states: open, locked by user, and locked by group. So therefore, we've got that there. We've got 5 different applications available. I'm currently using 3, but there's the availability to lock 5. We also have, what else have we got? We also have the ability to prevent users from marking the work status downwards on this file. So again, this is configurable by cube. So if you have, let's say for your management cube, you don't want that to happen. You want users to be able to unlock the numbers whenever they wish. Then you can actually do that. And also we have our 4th secured dimension here. So you can see that we actually have, it allows you to have up to 4 different types of dimensions for each cube. It doesn't matter if those dimensions are not the same, because this file will allow all of that. So it'll handle it without a problem.